No. I mean, he's a convenient. First of all, he came and told me that he's an ODM NEC member, and I even doubt he is.
He used to be.
Yeah, he used to be. Then, but when he came to us, he said to me that he's an ODM NEC member. You know, and so I asked him, you know, you're now coming and telling me to support your. I never even heard about his movement until he approached me. Was it last December? And so I'm asking him, but boss, when we had the bill, the Punguza Mizigo bill, which is really, that was already out there, where were you? Why didn't you come and support? This is convenient people. I mean, I don't like working with convenience. And one of the things I don't like, and I'm telling you, Njagi, you're my brother, I know you, I don't like dishonest people.
Oben Musumbe says, Shalom, Betok and the Legal Minds. My thoughts today, the proponents of VBI have no moral competency to pursue for more letters because they constantly violate the current spirit. For example, Mwende Nzimbi was vetted by the parliament and was found not to serve as Mwinzi actually. All right, so we're actually going to that next. Salim Kino say I to those big men. Thumb ups. My question: do they have any betrayal in the city? Uhuru Raila after this BBI. ODM actually beginning to cry fall, so you can only wait and see. I saw Philip Tala led the bandwagon. James Orengo joined. I saw also Milio Diambo and Anza kuingia mezani. What is cooking? All right. Registrar says I would go for Punguza Mzigo and like this free Kenya and Tunza Katiba. What do you guys need to come on board and we support Punguza Mzigo and counter the conmanship in BBI, which is forced down our throats. All right. Esther Mushende to Mechoka Aki. The BBI is a huge scam. DK Cheboy says tell a court we didn't oppose the Punguza Mzigo. It is the politicians. All right. Maniki says,
I don't blame Wananchi actually. Wananchi supported Punguza Mzigo. They gave me 1.2 million signatures.
Buruko Kinyanya says even the media cannot publish the bill on newspapers for us to read. What is really hidden is the allocation to counties, the only thing we're forced to love. Interesting. James Mwenda says Arnold is right. Informal sector don't get taxed for populist sake. Visit places like Ruaka and you lose count of the number of flats owned by traders in Kikomba. Wow, interesting. Victor says iko mingi sana. Ujinga iko mingi sana. It's annoying. Hope the BBI thing falls. It's gonna add the common Mwananchi match. They just don't see it now. Banjugana says very soon we would pay tolls on our newly built roads. Wow, interesting. Honestly, yes, I wish I could call. My present location may not allow, but allow me to say all the MCAs that will pass this BBI, Mwananchi should wake up and send them home in 2022. Let them go and feed on the bribe they have received. In fact, EACC should go, but the same EACC that is going for Baringo MCAs, ama ukona ingine on kutuma, should go for whoever and the bribe will they. I think EACC is the worst. Anyway, Abunga la Mwananchi pia iko wazi. You can call in 0779-800-010 or 779-800-010. Okay, guys, I think you've picked some of. I saw you guys wanted to respond to some of the comments. Some of the comments that I have.
First of all, let me. I want to say this clearly to Mr. Bob Njagi. Let's avoid politics of convenience. When Third Way Alliance Kenya was pushing the Punguza Mizigo bill, he claims that they are also doing the same thing, and it's not clear to me when they were doing theirs because I only came to learn about their bill, Free Kenya. And it was only predicated on one single issue, taxation, reduced taxation. So, and the problem in this country is this. I mean, when you're not, when you're not the one who has started an idea, you don't want to support it, but yet you want other people to support your idea. Anyway, but that's what under the bridge for me. I think one of the beginning points for us to really change this country is to begin with us Kenyans being honest with ourselves first.
Okay.
Before we can even, okay. You want to
Saidia Simo kidogo. Hello, Jambo.
Hello, Abari Gerard.
Salama sana. Arama, hold on the line. Leave the line. Okay. Who am I speaking to?
This is Martin.
Yes, Martin.
Yeah, how are you guys doing? I love the show today.
Thank you, sir.
The biggest question I'd want to put to Kenyans is ask them, why would somebody who is leaving office push for an agenda that he's claiming he's not a beneficiary of?
Okay. Why would someone who's leaving office push an agenda that they're saying they are not the beneficiaries of?
Yeah. And I also want to ask Kenyans to try to read some history. Because if you can remember something that happened in the U.S., whereby Obama appointed a Supreme Court judge in the name of Merrick Garland.
Mm-hmm.
And the people of the Republicans rejected that person because they claimed that Obama has no right to appoint a judge when he's leaving office. And I think Kenyans need to put that thing into the Kenyan context. Why is Uhuru pushing for a BBI document that he's claiming he's not going to be a beneficiary of?
All right, good question.
Yeah.
Asante
Thank
sana
you.
ndugu yangu. I appreciate your support. Joel Arama, you still on the line? Joel Arama. Joel, jambo. Jambo daddy.
Jambo sana bwana. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the panelists. It's been lively. I've been laughing by myself here. I think I'm crazy. But on a serious note, the issues that have been discussed are weighty, and we need to take action. So first of all, when we sign up to stick our neck out, as you have said, because we really need to. If we have to make a difference, we can't just talk. We need to take action. And personally, if that's what it takes, I'm good. I'm ready. So whatever needs to be done, can we join together and do something? Can we have a plan? What do we need to do? Maybe that may we start small, and we may be able to get in more people to join and make changes. So I like your idea of influencing our people on the local level and tell them, hey, you are getting lost. This is how we need to do it. And maybe when it force the whole BBI process through the county assemblies, at the end of the day, as citizens, will have the final say. If I can influence my people to vote no, then I should be able to do that. And maybe that way we'll succeed. Hopefully that will make a difference. So that's my contribution today. We have a hope, and maybe by sticking out, we may be able to make the changes and get the right leaders to make our country better than what it is right now.
Okay. Asante sana Arama. Thank you so much Arama for tuning in. Watu wa diaspora wote, salimia watu wa diaspora wote.
Sawa.
Okay, asante. Thank you. So, umesikia mambo. I think that those are the questions we are going to pick for today, so that we are able to exhaust the conversation.
I think to Martin, he's speaking about why does a person who is leaving office come up with an agenda that might actually go beyond, will take much longer. Of course, he knows the answer. Even as he asked that, probably he was trying to ask Kenyans to actually then reflect and know exactly why somebody is trying to come up with something that will fundamentally alter the way the nation is actually run. Going forward, he's simply ensuring that his interests are taken care of.
Someone actually has been in power for 10 years.
I don't think that at any particular time he was essentially out of power 100%. Yeah, because when we talk about interest money in politics, so much of our politics is actually taken ransom by interest money and other interests beyond that. That is why the political parties financing laws and attempts at that was to ensure that interest money that then does not bring in rent seeking to get hold of our politics. What we have failed to understand throughout is that, like he said, we are slaves in a farm called Kenya, and that very few people, or rather a few people, are in control of what is happening. We are here just giving them. I don't want even to belabor on that. So for Martin, why somebody will try to do that. People just want to ensure that they're in control. Even when they leave, their children can always be in control. And we cheer them along. I don't know whether that is what we call Stockholm Syndrome, where people who actually are in captivity, they fall in love with their captors, and all of a sudden then they defend them. If you were to send in a party to rescue them, they would actually turn and fight against you. So I think as a country, we are suffering from a Stockholm Syndrome.
We have fallen in love with our oppressors.
We have fallen in love with our oppressors. And any other person who tries to come and save us, we turn and fight them. And that is why as many young people, as many progressive people out there, over time, for the last 50 years, different people have come up and told us, hey, good people, we are not in a good situation. I've brought you salvation. And like the children of Israel, they asked Moses, who are you? Who is that person you are telling us? And Moses had to ask God one of the difficult questions. What should I tell the children of Israel that you are the one? Who are you that has sent me? You know how, the audacity of asking the creator of the universe.
Can you ask that guy who is?
As in, who are you? Go and ask that person who's telling you that we should leave Egypt and we go to, as in, who are you? And God had to answer one of the difficult questions of all time. And he simply told him, go and tell them that I am, that I am. It was a difficult question. even from God's perspective. So every time we as Kenyans have continuously asked our liberators, but who are you? What are you?
So I'm going to be brutally honest with Martin, and I will tell Martin this: let's not be lied to. President Uhuru Kenyatta has now been president for nearly 10 years. He's doing his last year in office. It's obvious what President Uhuru Kenyatta is doing, because President Uhuru Kenyatta had the last 9 years to do what he wants to do today. He had all the power to do what he wants to do today or wants to do tomorrow through this BBI. The truth for the matter is that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his surrogates, together with their surrogates, want to protect what is their interest. It's not about Kenyans. As I have said before in this show and many other fora, you make a constitution for the common good of society, not for the common good of individuals. And the fact for the matter is, Uhuru Kenyatta is playing a Putin on us Kenyans. He's playing the Putin card. Basically, if you remember when Putin became president in Russia, after 2 terms, he stepped down. Medvedev became the president, only just told, but he was actually the master behind the presidency. Then he came back to this very date. That's exactly what President Uhuru Kenyatta is trying to do, or he is actually doing.
He's putting us.
He's putting us. So it's about interest, and I think, like Akili has explained, if you look at the last 50 years in this country, the domination has been from a tiny minority who have also accumulated so much wealth that they cannot explain to. And for you to be able to protect such wealth, you need power. If you don't have political power, then your interest is actually threatened. But what I think these people are forgetting is that they are very poor students of history, if they studied history at all. They have failed to look at what happened in Zimbabwe, what happening in Angola with Dos Santos, what happened in Algeria with, what's the name of that president? Ben Ali, and many, many others. What happened in Sudan? That you can fool people all the time, but you cannot fool, what's that phrase called?
You cannot fool the same people all the time.
But anyway, whatever the case is, that time is coming to an end. And with increased agitation from the ordinary Kenyan, and Kenyans are increasingly becoming knowledgeable and beginning to question actually things. Why is this happening? And I think the truth will come out in a referendum. If the trend we are seeing in the county assemblies comes to pass, because it looks like it's going to pass anyway.
But Wakili, I know you probably have thought this because you're both a political and legal mind. There's a reason why the architects and the machinery that is working around BBI ensured that they had 5 million votes. Whether it was cooked, the signatures they actually took to IBC. It was a demonstration towards something that they are trying to work around. You know, the threshold, even at the ballot level, you just need about 25% voter turnout. Largely, that's what they are playing around that. And out of about 16 to 17 million registered voters today,
IBC has actually requested for 20 million ballots.
So roughly out of that, but that is a different case. I'll actually come back to that. Because like, for example, when you are running, you realize that IBC has got forms online. But that IBC will insist on giving you a hard copy form from their office. I'll tell you why that has nothing to do with some of these forms, Form 11, those statutory forms you are filling as an aspirant. Those forms, it has nothing specific about it having a logo or anything. It's just that somebody has got a tender to supply those forms. So we have to sustain. It's about sustainability of businesses in other places. But I know the guys who are coming out, the architects of BBI, know that between them, the two people, it's easy for them to raise a threshold of about 5 million people turning out. So, and since there is no strong opposition, even if the voter turnout is low, a simple majority, as in a minority of a people amongst the 5, will just pass it and then they get around with that. But that aside, I wanted to tell Arama spoke very well. But then he spoke about then we need to have hope and stuff. I always need to remind people out there that hope is not a strategy. It is a mistake we do continuously, that we just hope and things will work. If we do not wake up in the morning and do something about our situation, if we do not work this thing, our anger, our as in our fatigue with these things will not change, just getting tired about it. Even as we speak about that, then it speaks about the generations we have. For me, I still feel, even as a millennial, I still feel that we are the generation that has let this country down.
That's true.
That we grew up, I know we grew up in what we consider is difficulty, but that cannot be compared to those who came ahead of us, the baby boomers. Those guys had much more difficult time than we. But the millennials, and I normally tell them even in places when I'm doing my trainings, that probably this is the generation that might not have a president from amongst them. Because for us, we are so selfish. It's about, everything is about us. We don't think about the country, and we love pointing fingers. After us, there's a generation that is almost equal to us, even though they are not of the age of majority, what we call the Generation Zers. These human beings who were born after 1997, they stretch to 2000. A number of them, we are talking about 3 million of them now have become adults. They now have got IDs, and they are a number of them were picking up IDs plus with their Uduma number, whatever that thing is. So this particular generation is actually more, they love being part and parcel of solutions as opposed to we millennials. Maina Njenga, sad that I can use his example, always said that we are the 1, 2, 3, 4 generation. The millennials, as in you have got one wife, 2 children, a 3-bedroom house, and a 4-wheel drive car. For us, the millennials, we are so selfish. It's so hard to go out and do something. I know we will talk about, but then the guys who are coming behind us, this generation that's about 2-3 million of them now have become adults for the first time. As much as they are not as many as we are, they love being part and parcel of solutions. They are more global, they are more entrepreneurial, and they organize better. I have told guys that when these guys brought in their music, we complained. Remember people talking about Ifikie Wazazi? That generation has been able to chase the Niger and bongo music from our airwaves without asking for youth fund, without asking for those guys actually in their own, and their first music were shot using phones, rudimentary stuff. Those creatures have ensured that the Niger and bongo music has gone
out of the market.
Our generation complained youth fund ikakuja, women enterprise fund ikakuja, na hizo vitu zingine zote. These guys improvise, they come up with their solutions. So if millennials still think that they are the young people of this country, by the way, you are the people of this country, because ordinarily you are the majority among the voting bloc. So that is where the problem is. And then there's the alpha generation already. So we are not young. Even as you think that we are still using that cliche moving around that millennials. Behind us is Generation Z, and then there are super ultra guys, we are calling now the alpha generation, guys born after 2013. So however much you want to look at that, I think we should stop being a people of hope and work, because today we are the people who then mainstreamed the handout. When I try to run in my village, people will tell me, we are the handoutees. They call themselves handoutees. We say that you are the handouter, and we are the handoutees. They say about it confidently. It's not like kind of they are joking. Now let us go for the handout. And I will show even in the WhatsApp groups here for the people in Matunga and Kakamega. They will tell you, now we are going to listen to those guys and go home with our handout. And it is so sad that up country people don't even take serious money. 30 bob. 200. What are you talking about? We're talking about 30 bob. I give you 100 shillings, mnagawana watu watatu. That is how bad we've actually have got. And then whoever is bringing you that money is the one you are voting for. Okay. So going forward, I think we need to stop talking about hoping and talking about this. We need to tell people that if you do not hope is not a strategy, and if we do not work, we will be here. Even as a person born in 80s, I already have got white hair. I am no longer a child, so I can no longer pretend that I am. I think we are no longer young. In fact, Article 260Q should actually be reviewed. I still have got a problem with the way we define youth as people between 18 and 35. It is 17 cool years. As in, a child who was born when you turned youth becomes a youth when you are still youth. And the UN defines youth as 15 to 24. I think we need to bring that down.
For me, what I would say to young people, or to the youth, again, to be honest, one of the things that disappoints me about this talk about the youth is the failure of the youth to use their own numbers. They keep on complaining. They keep on admitting, like Hanold is saying, that they have admitted that they are handoutees. And it's a shame because today, if the young people of this country wanted a president of their own, if they wanted a government of their own, they can actually get that government. You know, and like Arama is saying, Arama is asking, where can we sign up? You know, like I keep on saying, I mean, last week we sent a message to IBC. Stop denying Third Way Alliance Kenya the relevant information to start the Punguza Mizigo Kenya campaign again. We have requested for the basic information on polling stations, on constituencies, on wards and counties. They have refused to give this information to me. And I want to tell Arama, wait, I'm going to press again this week and next week. Once I get that information, the signing page will be up and ready. You'll sign Punguza Mizigo as you also sign up on what you can do for this country. But lastly, you know, and I just want to remind young people of the wisdom by once Frantz Fanon. And Frantz Fanon says that each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. And unfortunately, the young people of this country are actually betraying. They have never found it's their own mission. That their own mission could actually be to change society as it is today, the kind of governance we have today. Because let me tell you, their daily life struggles are felt today. If you think about the 70% unemployment in this country, is the young people who are suffering the most. It's the young people today who are in colleges, who are in universities. Once they get those degrees and they graduate, and every university today in Kenya graduates, conducts graduation ceremonies twice a year, sometimes in June and in December. So where do all these people go to? And therefore, that for me, that's why I call upon the youth of this country. You must find your own mission. You either fulfill it or you betray it. This idea of hanging around the political class, the old political class, in your feeling rallies, they are telling you, come and listen to us, even during this pandemic. These folks who are assembling you have got an inpatient cover of at least 10 million Kenyan shillings, paid by your taxes. You do not even have NHIF. Remember, NHIF, even today, is not applicable when it comes to COVID-19. So I think the people who are betraying their own mission in this Kenya of today are the young people. And I think they need to wake up and smell the coffee. And tomorrow, they can actually form a government of their own if they want it.
I want to get some comments on two issues from you, Dr. and I want to combine them. First of all, is Mwenda Mwinzi, who was proceeded to serve duties in North Korea as an ambassador, despite the National Assembly refusing to approve, our appointment. And there seems to be, we're talking about changing the constitution when we are disrespecting what we have already. Exactly. There's also the issues of the court. The courts have instructed the government to reverse the transfer of KMC from Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and whatever to defense. Do you think they are going to honor it? These are two dishonors that are happening in between. Mwenda Mwinzi, with the full glare of the executive, has gone to perform a duty. Appointed by the executive, bypassed the parliament, and nobody's talking about it. She's already, shaking hands in North Korea and South Korea. And then there's either mambo ya nyama imeenda huko. Nobody's talking. They've said reverse.
So that's why I kept on saying that the idea that we are amending the constitution through BBI has been a lie all along, because we are not even respecting the current constitution as it is. The current constitution has introduced checks and balances, that the executive will nominate a cabinet, cabinet which includes cabinet secretaries and PSS, CASs, and ambassadors and everybody. And then that nominee will then go to parliament for vetting. That is per law, as per the constitution. Once parliament rejects, then the president must submit a fresh name. That has not happened. We saw in the case of, and by the way, let me just put a disclaimer. Mwenda Mwinzi is a very personal friend to me. I mean, we are co-investors in a company together. So I must put that disclaimer of them. nothing
personal.
There's nothing personal about her. But for me, let's stick to the law. The law is very clear. You are nominated, and I'm happy for her. You are nominated, but at least through the process of law, then you are legitimated. Right now, as it is, she's actually our representative in South Korea.
Legitimately.
a very important part.
Very important part in South Korea. But we know that she never went through the process of vetting and therefore legitimization. So it's unfortunate. So again, it comes back to the question of an executive and the person of President Uhuru himself, who has no regard for the rule of law, who has no regard for this constitution, despite having being sworn using the constitution that he will uphold,
And
protect and respect the constitution. He has never done that. He's gone ahead to make certain appointments like the chief administrative secretaries and all that against the constitution. So actually, we are being ruled. We are back into a I can't even say a dictatorship democracy, because that's a misnomer. We cannot use the word dictator and democracy at the same time. But we pretend to have used democracy to get into power, but then we go back to dictatorship. I think for me, what I will blame here is the failure of other agents within our governance structure. The failure of the opposition that has since went into bed with government, and just means for me that the people of Kenya were lied to, even by the people that they elected into, say, opposition. They never intended to be the opposition. The intention was
to get to power.
And how do we sneak ourselves into beginning to eat together with the executive? And like I said, Bitok, in your show previously, if there is one credit we must give Uhuru Kenyatta or Jubilee as part of their genius in the governance of Kenya, is in silencing
The opposition.
The only noisemaker who seems to know to have inroads in government, and that was Raila Odinga. The Jubilee knew that it's a failed government. It's continuing to fail. It will continue to lie to Kenyans, just like they lied to our children in 2013 that they'll give them a laptop, and they never gave them. Because you can imagine a parent who lies to a child. I mean, just as simple as that. You lie to a child, yeah, that I'll give you a laptop, ndakupatia peremende, na hakuna peremende. So they knew the only other noisemaker who has got inroads into government, having been a prime minister, being in cooperation with the KANU regime back in the days, is Raila Odinga. How do we silence him? Bring him on board. Once Raila was brought on board, ameingia box. Finito.
Kazi kwisha.
So kazi kusha.
Finito.
Yeah.
Haya, you comment on the same thing. The audacity in government to talk about constitutionalism when it continues to molest the constitution.
Well,
Mwende Mwinzi, South Korea already illegally. Nyama iko KDF.
Every time I look at all these things going on, I then go back to one thing, that as we fought the imperial presidency in the past and brought in checks and balances, a phrase he has actually used so many times while we were here, there is one thing in the architecture that we actually assumed. And assumption again is never a factor when you are planning. It's not a factor of planning, but it's important to assume that, especially when you are trying to do projections, that as we put in checks and balances, we gave a lot of power to parliament. We had a lot of faith in them, hoping that because they are many and they are representative of the people, they will actually act in the interest of the people. Today, I can actually say confidently that parliament is the weakest link in our governance. Because when you talk about legislation, parliament, knowing too well, and it has got resources and capacity to know, to go out and reach and compare. We have given them a workforce and a very good budget. They have passed, for example, very bad laws, of course, simply because the executive has asked for it. It has actually taken the judiciary to actually intervene and change that. So parliament lost its place. And one of those factors I actually credit for bringing down parliament is still CDF. I still insist that if you sat down, we need to have somebody actually doing a paper, a good research, and actually just on what impact CDF has had on the quality of parliament and what they are supposed to do. Because apart from it offending the principle of separation of powers, it has highly compromised these people. Mm-hmm. When is the last time you saw anyone being jailed because of misappropriating CDF? No. Yet we all know that CDF has been the petty cash for members of parliament. So they have moved away from their core function. They are busy implementing and doing work that should be for the executive. So parliament, for us, is the weakest link in our governance. They became a rubber stamp for the executive. At some point when we heard about what Mutai Ngugi used to call what is that term again?
The tyranny of numbers.
The tyranny of numbers. It will actually was also before the falling out, and this fallout is actually very good because there's no honor among thieves, so they will call out each other.
Last week Ekuru said there's honor among thieves. Last week Ekuru said there's honor among thieves.
There's no honor among thieves. Now all of a sudden we are hearing if you stole from the Chinese from this end, the other one reminds you also stole from the other. The problem here is that even as they call out each other, we do not have a critical mass of conscious populace that will take advantage of that and bring down this nonsense.
Okay.
So
just to prove to you that there is honor. Okay, for Mwinzi.
So for Mwinzi, I am even surprised that we are thinking that Parliament will do anything. Parliament became a rubber stamp of the executive. The only thing, and which I actually think the executive has also been playing around with us, has been on the issue of Article 27. And again, the problem was that even as we designed that, we forgot that there was Article 100. It becomes difficult to talk about Article 27.8 without reading it together with Article 100. So once we have done with the gender issue, the 2/3 principle, then how then do we take care of the youth, the persons with disabilities, the minorities, the marginalized? Those are the 4 SIGs, special interest groups. How do we take care of that? We have forgotten to talk about that. So for Parliament, the President has countermanded Parliament before. They have got a whole function unto themselves, but they have never been able. The only time they come together to actually speak fluently is when it's about their interests, their perks, and that. And I think for Parliament, I do not know how we deal with that. That has to be taken back to Wanjiku. And tell Wanjiku that sometimes I'm actually an apologist to when it comes to how much we pay members of Parliament. If we were to give these members of Parliament whatever money they're asking for and take away their temptation to keep on putting their hands into the till. But then, parliamentarians are busy chasing after tenders. You go to a department, you find them queuing there with you. They're everywhere. If Parliament became Parliament, then the 2 billion shillings Uhuru is talking about will not be going to waste every day. So that is a big problem that we have. But something else that I think I would actually want to mention is that, of course, we've been talking about our problems and everywhere. Probably we need to talk about the progress of mankind. The march of progress as is happening elsewhere. The US could be a shithole country for all. They've been everywhere doing everything else. I saw them even doing the Jacob's ladder. The guys who've been in the military and the police know the Jacob's ladder. I only just realized that later on, among the people who stormed the Capitol, some of them were even Navy SEALs. Otherwise, I was wondering, why would somebody a perfect Jacob's ladder? It's normal when you build a ladder of individuals, human beings, and then have one of you get over you up and scale a wall. Those are those are very military tactics. But then I have seen yesterday we were speaking with you earlier on about the Perseverance, the rover landing on Mars.
Yes.
It's a big thing. There have been about 17 missions. We're talking about lunar missions to Mars, because sometimes there is a thinking that we escaped from Mars after we messed it up. Then we came to Earth. So human beings have always looked at the red planet. So elsewhere, people are busy, and for the first time, a country that is not from Europe or China also send a rover to Mars. The Saudi Arabians and then the Chinese, of course, are going there because normally after every 6 years, the loop between Mars and Earth becomes shorter. So all countries that want to explore wait for that particular window because it's a shorter period. So yesterday, the Perseverance landed on it. For the first time, there is going to be a helicopter.
206 million kilometers.
A helicopter from that particular rover that will try to fly on Mars. The rover will release the helicopter, the small miniature helicopter, to fly and see and try to take over. And for the first time, they're also sending us videos. Of course, the most popular mission to Mars this far has been Curiosity. Curiosity had moved around for some time, and of all those 16, the lunar ones, they've been the sub-lunar ones where they are sending a vehicle and it just goes around Mars. The others about 6. Here we are. We launched our space a program sometimes back. You remember that?
The balloons or what now? The balloons which are shot down.
Even the
in Capedo, like
they were not shot down.
Can we even manage air balloons alone?
Those balloons, Google actually folded up that business. As in, we were the only people who took up that particular project. They folded up, I think, last month, and they closed up that particular end. So what am I trying to say? That even as we are obsessed with our ancient way of doing things, our bad manners, not necessarily, bad manners are not even Stone Age. Because yeah, we have got a whole. There's a whole.
Only nuclear, is a family.
No, it's actually they're still pursuing it, and it will cost us about $500 billion to put it up. So it can only be in Western where there's a lot of water, or in coast, because a nuclear plant uses a lot of water. So those people there has not been serious public participation. And we are people who cannot take care of small things. Small things, but here we want to put up a plant.
But if we cannot even build toilets alone, just for children in
to
schools, how do you want to go to Mars when you cannot build a toilet?
Even take care of a nuclear plant. Even as people try to get out of that, of course, it becomes very complex when you talk about issues to do with coal. We will bring in issues of environmental, the politics around the environment. Even though I still ask people that the biggest plant, the Volkswagen, the biggest plant in Stuttgart, runs on coal, 100%. Yeah, even as we get around that, there's the economics around it and a lot of it. Everybody else is trying to run away from nuclear, but it's still cheaper. How are we then positioning our country to get to a level where then it will be possible for us to move masses? When you're talking about 16 million people who are structurally unemployed, that people naturally will be busy trying to do something, but is that money enough to even? Do they even get livable wage out of it? So how can we move those masses to get some decent earning? I'm not even asking for them to get proper money. If we still are thinking this way, we are lied to and no one can question a very complacent population, because again, sometimes I know people like Daktari here get tired of being the general managers of the country, because you are trying to remind people and poking their conscience, and their conscience is dead. So even we as a people out there need to wake up every morning and realize that for every shit that is out there, we are contributors. And that no one has got the burden
guys.
of bringing you up this far. So even as a people, we really need to move away from being complacent and acting like we are helpless. We are not. We are enablers to what is happening.
Right. Someone has mentioned that actually we are 16 minutes past time, but someone has mentioned that we are not badly off. We are flying toilets. As I hear the places, you're not very far off. Now, Daktari. While Kenyans were doing all this push and pull and talking about BBI, watching the drama in the county assemblies, Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka were getting 200 million each as pension grants, to enjoy retirement. And ODM is actually finishing acquiring 4 helicopters for the campaigns and sound system from America, getting off the campaigns. You'd wonder where they're getting 4 helicopters. ODM for Ubaba, we know. All right. Well, also that was happening. The NHIF, which you just mentioned, that was increased to 6,000 shillings a household.
For me, it's a tragedy that, one, we are allowing pensioners. The word pension means that you have actually retired and you're actually already enjoying retirement benefits after serving the public. And yet we are still entertaining these individuals who are retirees into our public space. It's a con game. And I think if Raila and Uhuru, Raila and Kalonzo are now rethinking they don't want to retire, then they must refund the money they've been getting from taxpayers' money, because that's already contravenes the whole concept of retirement. Why are you surprised that there are helicopters and choppers being bought by ODM? Remember, ODM got how many? Is it 6 billion? Last
from the political parties.
From the political parties fund last time. So don't be surprised. Why? I mean, after all, like we have said here, it's about interest. Who else can protect the interests of the so-called oligarchs, quote unquote, in Kenya, other than the people who have been with them all along? They are surrogates. It's only the Railas, it's only the Kalonzos. But Bitok, when we talk about these individuals, and I've tried to really urge you, let's not talk about these individuals.
It was actually the issue.
Yeah.
The issue, what I was looking at is the money that's being left out, the Mwananchi is being done. I was actually a follow-up from what my good friend was talking about, the susceptibility of the Mwananchi. We sit and say, we've like...
As you can see, they don't care about Mwananchi, because by the time you increase NHIF to 6,000, is the economy supportive of that increment in the first place? Because if you are not giving Kenyans opportunity to be able to make a living to earn a living, to earn salaries, how then do they pay NHIF? And don't forget, we are increasing this money during a pandemic. Government is not telling Kenyans clearly whether we are actually out of danger from this pandemic or not. We know we are not out of it, because the rest of the countries, in the world, are actually struggling with it. Why are we increasing NHIF when we cannot even use it to treat ourselves if you caught COVID today, God forbid? You know?
NHIF only takes care of, in fact, if you get those terminal diseases like cancer, the only people who have got a little bit of leeway with the NHIF are civil servants. The rest of you, like somebody said, you are being told kana mama yako. That's what we are being told.
Haya, kaeni na mama zenu.
But then before
As we go,
before you wind up,
Yeah,
I just
please,
want to say this. That
your
today,
last,
one of the
your tackle
news,
of the day.
one of the news piece that we actually have not spoken about is that 6 out of 10 Kenyans cannot afford meals today. It's in the papers today. 6 out of 10 Kenyans cannot get proper meals, which means we only have got about 4 who could put some semblance of 3 meals on the table. And out of those 4, we even don't know how they are making it. So we are at a time when even as people try to engineer their way around our state, I said when I started that we live in a country where our economy has been engineered in a way that it serves a few politicians. The state in itself and all its instruments exists not for our good. Yet we know that there are 3 functions to how a government then should function. A third state, which is the civil society, to help people organize themselves away from government and away from the corporate world, the commerce bit of it. And then a state that is able to give goods across the country, at least equitably, public goods. And then the most important bit is there being some semblance of law. Rule of law as the stabilizer, as the salt that then graces all these things. So that once you have got those 3 ingredients, you can come up with a country, then you will bring in a common language where people can speak one language. But that said, is that even as we speak all these things, one thing continues, that Mwananchi does not care about themselves. They
And I
don't.
think we deserve it.
That is why when you talk about politicians don't care about Mwananchi, you don't even care about yourself.
Why should
You
you
are
care
calling
about
yourself a handoutee, for example. What then stops me as one who wants to capture state? I am a driver of rent seeking, for example. What stops me from going and getting money, whatever way I can get it, then give you a little bit of a handout and then take control of this thing as we move on. So we are at a place where, from whatever way you say, I have always thought that probably if things get bad, we might wake up. If you are unable to afford ugali for your children, then probably we will wake up and say, no, things need to change. But so long as the economy can stabilize and we are bribed with a few good things here and there, then the kinds of Bitok, so long as Bitok wakes up in the morning, he comes here and he can raise a little bit of money to go around, take good selfies and put on social media, he feels good. Probably things should escalate further for a proper national remaking moment. Otherwise, from where we are, we will be forced to swallow BBI as it is, and we will live with it. You know how Patni will say, they will ask, the court will confront Patni with facts. You said this and this is the established, which means you lied. And Patni would answer the court, I can live with it, Your Honor. You know how
So my tackle of the day is
I
this.
think we deserve this.
My tackle of the day is this, Bitok, and I'm speaking to Kenyans. I just want to tell Kenyans that the country we call Kenya belongs to all of us in equal measure. Unfortunately, we have surrendered it to a tiny minority of individuals who behave as if Kenya is their bedrooms, their living rooms, their homes. They can decide to change it whichever way they want it. So it's really up to us Kenyans. But because we have been saying this over and over again to Kenyans, that you need to wake up and change. So I'm going to be a sadist today. And I say this. I want Kenyans to feel the greatest of pain from the current leadership. Let them suffer enough. Wasikie uchungu kabisa until when they wake up and know that they're actually being buried alive, as I can see. And I hope that's when Kenyans will probably see the light or see the sense and wake up. Let Kenyans feel the pain because they are responsible for this leadership, because of their sycophantic following, because of their tribalistic tendencies. Wacha tusikie uchungu mpaka wakati tutaamka tuseme enough is enough.
Congratulations, Kenyans. Let's continue suffering. Daktari ametuambia tuendelee kuumia. And I think we deserve this. The more I look at it, the more I lose sympathy for our people because we see all these things happening. We get agitated and then we move on. We talk about fuel taxes being added. I remember there was a time that the taxes really had a big time, even had a debate in parliament. And the parliament was bribed. And we got the fuel increase. And we said, you're going to demonstrate. We've lived with it. Like, Malima said, I think we deserve all this.
When I was promoting Punguza Mizigo, there are certain places in Kenya I could not go. And when I went there, they would tell me, no. Usiseme kitu. Wewe ongea tu mambo yako Punguza Mizigo, lakini usiseme mambo ya mtu fulani because ni kiongozi wetu. So let Kenyans suffer.
Let's suffer.
Let's suffer.
All right. Thank you. Let's suffer. It's always a pleasure to have you, gentlemen. Thank you. Sheria Wiki.
We were born to suffer.
You were born to suffer. Maybe we need to start playing that reggae. Born to suffer.
Lucky you.
We are born to suffer. Born to suffer. Let's continue suffering until we feel enough. And I think it will be very impossible to have a revolution in this country because even within ourselves, we still have the demarcations. When you collect poor people, then they'll watakutana mahali moja, then they say now there's one who is richer than us, then now they segregate that one, another one anatoka mahali fulani, community fulani, with that segregation within the poverty bracket. But anyway, guys, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for the contribution that we've been making. Martin Ella says I'm with Aukot on this one. Let us continue suffering till we wake up. We'll deserve it. Sakongi Bagat Aukot, are you an optimist or a perfect pessimist? Let's suffer. All right. But we understand this BBI is the should eat or help us properly. Anyway, guys, it was always a pleasure to have you. And wish you a very great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. And we'll see you again on Monday on Common Sense with Eric Mwange, CEO, Maridadi Motors, and Captain Collins Wanderi. Until then, bye-bye and take care. Enjoy your weekend. Let's suffer. It's another time to wake up and suffer. Kesho, let's wake up and suffer. We suffer for this until tutakuwa revu zaidi. This is a tackle, and the tackle ends now. Bye-bye. Signing out.